Canada Soccer's moved ahead this past weekend with a few things to discuss. First of all, Charmaine Crooks did not stand for re-election, which I think people knew on the inside, I guess. I don't think any of us are that stunned by it. But as such, Peter Aguirre, who had currently been president and chairman of Ontario Soccer, is now the main man in Canadian soccer circles.
Do you mean, Charm, sorry, before you go on, when you said Charmaine didn't stand for re-election, that means she didn't put her name through, or she said, I can't stand for this? She didn't like the process.
Can't stand you.
Can't stand you.
Oh, God,
Sorry.
Jimmy.
Okay, carry on.
Steinfeld.
Jimmy, fix your notifications.
What do you mean?
Someone's notifications just went off.
No, not me.
But then how are people supposed to get drunk during the show?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Remember the drinking
Stop
game?
drinking, people.
Facilitate the game.
Okay, so people were crying out for new leadership, right? A year ago. And a year later, there's a new president, there's a new general secretary. Is this enough change? Craig, do you think? Is it, let's wait and see what happens now? But is it a step forward?
Well, hey, there's been change and we'll have to see. Yeah, it's just a case of just wait and see, I think. What are we going to do?
Well, he seems like he's a football person, right? He's been a long time administrator, which isn't always the best thing. He's been a coach, an official, a player, various levels. Jimmy, is it positive? What do you think?
You'd like to think so. I don't know, Sharms. It's difficult right now because we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. Obviously, new president coming in, we don't know what his goals are. I mean, he's already mentioned that it's football first mentality, which is very similar to what Victor Montagliani said when we went to his conference a while back. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen with all of this.
You seem cynical, Jimmy.
A little bit. A little bit.
Why is that?
Well, because we've seen change before. Nothing's really happened. Now there's more change coming in. There's certain individuals that are putting pieces in place. Are they the right people to be doing this job? We don't know. And time will tell. And we just got to wait and see who the head coach is going to be.
I think that's probably a very common refrain, given what's happened the last number of years, Dubs, in Canadian soccer circles. Oh, new change. What a surprise. New faces, new voices, same old bullshit. So it really is perhaps not a statement on the personalities here, but it's like we need to see action here. And I think at the very least, we need a president that's more transparent than Charmaine was, who just didn't speak. You never heard from her. Mm-hmm. I think you need a vocal figurehead, a vocal leader here. And whether that's Peter Aguirre or not, I don't know. Again, we will find out. But if anything, that's, I think, the first step. Establish yourself, your personality and identity for Canadian football.
Yeah, and get to know the person a little bit, right? Like their ideals, the personality, their kind of pathway to this job. And then I think what you said about communication is key, because that will align with Kevin Blue. And then you all of a sudden have like an overarching message and values and ethos in the way that you're conducting yourself. And I think that goes a long way towards giving people confidence, but that's like a teeny tiny step. Because I'm with Jimmy and Craig. Change, you think. Change usually means good, or you're optimistic that something is going to change for the better. But I think everybody's been burned so badly by this organization with their failure to institute positive change, to do good by way of their senior players, for the youth programming, for just the national sporting organization and moving the sport forward. They're meant to be the leaders. So I think we have a right to feel muted and cynical about this appointment or about this new president. So I think they have to do more than, say, presidents in the past to prove to us that they are the right person for this job, and is going to be seen in the actionable change that they institute. And then perhaps the board members there in support who are voted in. I know, Jimmy, you know the ex-player who's in there, say good things about him. And then also in what they voted through in increasing the registration charges, and then how that money is going to be divvied up, and how it's going to be some money earmarked for youth programming and some money earmarked for Project 8. So I think, again, that transparency, the right messages, and then the right people behind it who are authentic, all of a sudden gives I think, Canadians more hope and more confidence in this national sporting organization because they haven't really earned it in the past.
It's interesting you mentioned there the directors, because it's not just obviously the president. It's a new look to this board with 5 new board members coming in. Gail Staton from BC, and is that Yukon as well? From Terry Matucci from Ontario, Tony Delblon from Quebec. An independent director is Brad Baker, and David Zauser, Jimmy, your former teammate. You know,
Yeah,
well.
Zauser. I spoke to Zauser, a while back. Zauser was my old roommate. Great guy. He's got a good football mind. He's got a great business mind as well, and he's a right fit for that position. He wanted to get on the board because he feels that he can make a difference, which I think he can. And it's nice knowing that there's a football first mentality that's coming from him. He's a no bullshit kind of guy as well, which I like, and hopefully he'll be in a position where people will listen to him. And he'll get the inside scoop of actually what's going on behind the scenes. And knowing Zauser, he's there for the right reasons. He wants Canada soccer to be better than what it is. And I think it's important that you do get people that are in there for the right reasons, not there for political aspirations, not there making their resume look fantastic so that they can get to where they want to go. Men like Zauser is in there because he wants to make a difference. So I think it's great that he's on, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the work that he does.
It's interesting that Kevin Blue was approved by the former leadership group as well. So new leadership group comes in. I find that somewhat interesting, how that is going to work. There's no reason to think that it wouldn't work, but he's just on the job. He's answering to a new board, which is interesting to say very least, Craig. What do they mean when they say football first? What does that mean exactly? It's going to be thrown around a lot by these people the next little while, I think. Football first mentality. What is that? And was it not football first before?
Good question. Seriously. Yeah,
Right.
you would think it was football first before, and whatever. We'll see.
Does it mean, I think perhaps it means there's so many personal agendas in Canadian football, has been for so long. It's about, like Jimmy said there, it's about pushing your own personal place in the game at the expense of perhaps what's good for the whole picture in Canadian football. Is that what it means? Just pushing away the egos over there. Piss off. We don't want you anymore. We've got to focus as a group, as a country, for what's best for this game, rather than these individual, be it provincial level, be it club level, these personal egos at play. Is that what it is?
Well, I think if you look at Canada wants itself to be taken seriously, kind of in the sporting world and footballing world. So if you didn't have people who had their own personal agendas and these political aspirations, then you're not going to come close to the giants of world football, right? I think that's part of it, like the scandals and everything. But I think at least elsewhere, it's under the guise of this footballing first, where you've got programs in place, you've got funding, you've got a focus on grassroots, you're connected with your stakeholders, you've got a real commercial and sponsorship angle that's driving everything. And then you're connected to what's happening provincially as well. You've got the right people in place. So it's, you can talk until you're blue in the face, no pun intended, Kevin Blue. But until you start to take steps to make actionable change, right? To put the right men's head coach in place, make sure your pipeline is more robust, that your youth programming is held up, then you can talk about all of these fancy turns of phrases and things that sound flashy and give you good quotes in the papers. Like it means fuck all. Like you have to be able to walk the talk. So can this next group that's in now, this president, Kevin Blue, the next men's head coach, Bev Priestman, everybody who's kind of the faces of this organization, but then also the people behind the scenes, you have to be doing things the right way. And then when Dino Rossi left, I don't know Dino Rossi from anybody, but he said, the mentality, the approach was not football first. So as an organization, what are you doing? You can put out a strategic plan for where you want to go, but on your day in, day out, if you're not focused on putting out the best brand of football and creating the support staff, and then having the money and the resources to support those people, whether they're staff, their administrators, their referees, their coaches, their players. Like, what are you even doing? So I think it's seeing that, the evidence of that every day, every week, getting updated on it, and then we can take the right steps to start to ratchet things up from a Canadian soccer perspective.
Can I throw in too? I had no idea what the president did until you guys had this conversation. So I'm going to read a little bit of what the role of the president of Canada Soccer is. And it's quite interesting. The president should not have an operational role. That is to say that they should not be directly involved in the design and delivery of soccer programs. Instead, the president should focus on higher level matters centered around board of directors, broad member wants and needs, and public representation of the club. They come down with more specifics, but basically this unpaid gig is a figurehead spokesperson job. I am interested to see how many fingers get in the broth when Peter, who is a soccer guy, is involved. I mean, this is supposed to be a Charmaine Crooks. Kind of makes sense when you think of the description of that job, right? This is a figurehead job. It's no more than that. And that will be interesting. And now that I know what that position means, do they even have, other than putting the right people around, like a David Zaza, are we in a place that, are we making too big a situation about the president?
No, I think it's a huge job. It's a very important job.
I'm just asking.
No, it's a good question, but you're representing Canadian football on the global stage. Victor Montaliani did it better than anyone, I think. He had a presence about him. Didn't take any bullshit from anyone. You need that strong personality, that strong face. I think you have to have that in this position. Now, it is volunteer, but it should be paid. I think in the States, they just started paying their president, haven't they? It's a full-time job. You speak to any former president, they'll tell you it's a full-time job. And maybe that's why Charmaine, didn't want to run for re-election. She's busy. She's got a lot of other interests, right? You have to commit to this 100%. And especially given the landscape right now for Canada, okay, you got this labor war at the moment with the players, has to be fixed. You got to find a men's head coach. You got a World Cup in 2 years' time. There's a lot going on. You got a women's professional league starting up next year, right? There's a lot going on for this person in charge, who will rely heavily on Kevin Blue or whoever the general secretary is and their board. But I think it is an extremely important position. But you have to come at it from a very professional, from a very corporate angle, I think. And there's a lot of positions that need to be filled as well. There's not a director of football, right? I don't think, Jimmy, in Canadian football at the moment.
No.
Right. You have to get that person in place, whether that's the head coach or someone else. I don't know. But you've got to work on that. There's so many different facets for this game which have to get put in place before we make any progress at all, I think. So we will see. $4 registration increase, $9 to $13. We'll raise about $2 million, just over $2 million, which is good. And 50 cents of that goes to Project 8 Dubs, which was, I guess, officially, it was sanctioned last year, right? But is it now officially sanctioned? Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and Halifax confirmed right now. 2 more additional markets should be confirmed in the coming weeks. Should Project 8 be satisfied with the 50 cents?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure what that translates to, but I think there were 2 motions. So one was a $3 hike, and then there was an additional motion for a $1 hike, where half of that went to youth programming, and then the other 50 cents went to Project 8, as you mentioned. So yeah, I think it's a nice kind of vote of confidence, or a nice show of support for the Women's Professional League that's coming. And I think Diana was there giving a presentation on Project 8 as well. So I think more and more, like when I speak to groups, whether they're associations or schools or things like that, very few know about Project 8. And, even in soccer communities. So I think hopefully in the coming weeks, when there's more official announcements, that it's on more and more people's radars, because that's going to be important to galvanize all those people. And the same way that PWHL has seen success, where you get into pockets of populations that maybe don't attend traditional sports. And then you start to build momentum towards, kickoff, which is less than a year away. That's
Well,
crazy to think.
can I just, in that case, suggest that we are more than happy to welcome any major stakeholder from Project 8 who might be involved to come on our podcast and talk about it whenever you like.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, that's how I feel whenever I'm talking about Footy Prime in Canada. They're like, what do you have? You have that? You have the #1 Canadian produced podcast for soccer? Yes.
So
I didn't know that.
come on in, or
Yeah.
reply to the email at least. There's an option as well. We're here for you to push your message anytime
Or if we
you
send
want.
you a link, you get on the link and you show up to the interview.
Well, there's
How about
that as well. There's that as well.
Yeah.
We're just here for you.
You don't give us a yahoo.ca email.
Just that's the email certain people just give. Yeah, we'd have no
That's
interest in
right.
doing this
Here
at
it
all, but
is.
we'll just
Yeah.
give them that email.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't want to say no.
Excite.com.
We should though have on broadcast in the coming weeks. We'll have like a sneak peek of those announcements with a special
really?
guest. Yes.
Okay, great. Yes,
Mhm.
excellent. We also are going to put out the extension to Peter Grusu to come on the show soonish. Yeah, and Kevin Blue, of course, as well. Now that this is kind of done, we can start getting these personalities on the
Maybe we
show.
get David Zalz on.
That'd
Yeah.
be brilliant. Absolutely. Is he allowed as a board member, or are they forced to stay quiet in the background?
Good question.
I'm gonna find out, I guess, when we ask him.
Yeah.